Take a trip with me beyond the veil, where true crime and the supernatural intertwine. This is Bloodlines and Secrets. So, I was in the second grade attending Learning Tree Elementary School. It was a private school in Peoria, Illinois. I was in Mrs. Evans' second grade classroom, and I was a whimsical kid, and I don't know, I was a little different, but so I got in trouble this particular day in class, and I had to stay in during recess. So, so while the kids were outside, I would get up, take turns from sitting at my desk, going to the window to look at the kids having fun outside. And so all of a sudden I hear footsteps. Now, okay, Learning Tree was inside of a Baptist church. I think it was a Baptist church, but it was in a church. So I was in one of the, the church classrooms. So I start hearing footsteps. Now there were two doors in the classroom. There was a door there, and there was a door over here to the left, and then there were stairs outside the door. So I'm at my desk, so I turn around and I look, waiting for someone to walk past the door. Because by this point, so many footsteps, I'd heard so many footsteps, I knew somebody should be passing. No one passed. So I'm like, okay. So I get up and I tiptoe. I tiptoe over to door number one. So door number one, there's a long hallway, okay? It's a hallway, then there's like a janitor's closet, and then, it resumes down to other classrooms. So I get up and I peek out the door. Nobody. You hear me? Nobody. So I was like, okay. I wasn't thoroughly freaked out at that point yet. So go back to my desk. I start hearing footsteps again. And at this point, I'm getting a little nervous. Like, okay, so I hear the footsteps. They just walk. It's like someone just on a perpetual walk. So I get up and I tiptoe to the door again. Now the footsteps stop, okay? I'm looking out. I go to the other door, look out that way, nothing. So this continued to happen. So I sat in my desk, like kind of frozen. So when the class came back, I told Mrs. Evans about it, and she was like, what? And she looked a little rattled, because then she proceeded to tell me that the janitor was off that day. And I said, okay. So that was about the time I started hearing and being able to see. But I kept these kinds of things, aside from like my mom and sometimes my sister, I kept these things to myself at that point. I don't know why, I just did. Fast forward, I'd moved to Springfield, Illinois, I think 5th grade, and I started developing some friendships. So one of my friends that I still have as a friend now, I'd done a podcast a few years back, and I was kind of explaining some of the paranormal activity that I'd experienced just throughout my whole life. So that podcast comes out, and out of all the things she mentioned, I thought it would be something else. But she said, Danielle, I am so glad that you're embracing your truth. And then she told me to read Tabitha Brown's book, Feeding the Soul. And I was like, what? She's like, just read it. And I was like, okay. So I get the book. And as soon as I started reading it, I was like, oh my God, because she talks about her spiritual experiences, her gifts. And I was like, oh my God, we have something in common. But I'm like, well, if she can put her business out like that, then why am I hiding? And since then I've come to realize nobody gives a shit. Like literally nobody cares. Nobody cares. And I gave that what I thought other people would think of me, just too much weight. So there's that. So that really kind of affirmed me and made me feel like I really could walk in my truth, just to be a more authentic person. But yeah, so this podcast, Bloodlines of Secrets, is going to be a lot of true crime, supernatural / paranormal stuff, and everything in between. There'll be a little bit of social commentary and how it applies to us just on a day-to-day basis. But I really want to lock in on just the spiritual nature of life. And a lot of times we don't tell anybody the things that we've seen or heard, especially, and I'll talk about this in subsequent episodes, but especially if you have like a church background. And if these kinds of things aren't embraced or acknowledged, that could really hinder your spirit in a lot of ways and kill your discernment if you have that gift. So I just really hope you like this podcast and stick around for stories that I have to tell. Oh, I don't want to forget. So like the true crime aspect. So I was one of those weird kids. I was watching the news at like at like 7, 8 years old. I was glued to the TV. And by the way, I cuss too. So just putting that out there, then you know. So I would sit down and watch the news. And when I was still living in Peoria, I remember being scared to go outside to play because Alton Coleman and his girlfriend, Deborah Brown, were killing people. Like they were Black serial killers. And this was, I think, after the Atlanta child murders, because I was scared of that too. But they were on the news and they were killing kids. And so, you know, as a little kid, I was like, what the hell? Who's out here killing kids? And they Black, you know, I was like, Black people do that shit? So they were apprehended in, I believe, Evanston, Illinois in 1984. And I don't know, that kind of shook me. And so with my little news watching self, I've just been a crime enthusiast, you know, this whole entire time. So I like to do some deep dives into serial killers, you know, random or what seem like random one-off killings, because sometimes the supernatural plays a part in that. And I'll get to that later. But the world is so much more than what we could see with our naked eyes. And so I just hope that you continue on this journey with me, and I hope you like the content. If you do, like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.